Welcome to the Miller Report. Today's guest is somebody I've been trying to get on the Miller Report, I think since we've started, because he's a legend in the real estate business. We often see him in press, and he's sought off to all the time when it comes to real estate expertise. He's a graduate from the University of Michigan. He also has a law degree from Miami University, and he was named Entrepreneur of the Year 2 times by Ernst & Young. I want to welcome Andrew Heiberger to the Miller Report. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for coming here. You are a legend, I have to say, and I've been trying to get you on here because nobody's heard from you from a really long time. So welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
So just so everybody knows who Andrew is, you probably do, but I'm going to just refresh your memories. He founded Citi Habitat right after law school. He took Citi Habitat from 2 brokers to 1,000. Now, that's my goal. So you did that. So how did you do that, Andrew? Let's just start with that.
Thank you. Back in the early 90s, I was a real estate agent coming out of law school. I tried working internships in law, and at the end of the day, it wasn't really a good fit for me. I wanted to be front-facing and sales-facing, and I really had a passion for real estate, which stemmed from when I was very young. My mother was a well-renowned real estate broker on Long Island, and my father was a home builder, and we spent our Sundays going to open houses and touring properties.
Instead of soccer games?
Yeah, instead of soccer games. I did play a bunch of sports, but not on Sunday. And I became very interested in it. And then in the 80s, when there was a big real estate boom, especially on Long Island, the prices haven't changed for like 30 years going into the 80s. There was a big boom. We were buying and selling land and flipping and selling land and properties, and with my brother and father, and they made me a partner when I was 16 and 17, and I made about $100,000 plus per year when I was 16 or 17, and my parents didn't take the money and put it away for me in some conservatorship. They let me have the money, so of course I spent it. And it gave me a taste of earning and spending a lot of money and enjoying what came along with it. I was very motivated by earnings. So then I went to University of Michigan to college. I was always going to college. I thought I was going to I wanted to become a lawyer. At one point, I was pivoting back and forth, and between law school and maybe just not continuing with law and going into continuing with the real estate. But in 1989, following the 1987 stock market crash, there was a little lag. And in 1989, there was an equally seismic real estate crash. So there was no opportunity for me anymore on Long Island. And then I decided to go to Plan B, which was originally my Plan A, which was to go to law school. So I went to law school, and then during my summer job, instead of working for attorneys, a friend of mine was renting apartments, and he was making a lot of money in Greenwich Village. And I said to myself, being the competitive person that I am, if he could make $100,000 plus, then I could make $125,000 plus. And I went into that business, started renting apartments, and I was very successful at it. I always finish what I start, one of my mantras. And so I finished out the law school, passed the bar exam. I'm still an admitted attorney today to practice, but I never practiced. And then I wanted to go back into real estate. Being from Long Island back in the days, Dix Hills, Long Island, which is western Suffolk County, we never really came to New York City. We never knew from New York City. It wasn't really...
I'm going to have to interrupt you just because we have a lot to cover, but I just want to really, I want my audience to know, I actually want to know how you take from 2 brokers to 1,000. Like, what were the elements to grow it so fast?
Yeah.
And why did people want to come work with you? And what do you think you did to get 2,000 people, 1,000 agents in such a short amount of time? That's tremendous.
Yeah. So, There was a lot of room then for innovation. The market was very archaic. There was only one other residential broker that was well known for rentals back in the day. I focused on rentals.
Was that J.I. Sofer?
And that was J.I. Sofer.
So he trained me.
Yeah, so he was the original legend and the innovator in that business. So, but there was still a lot more room for innovation in that business, and I always wanted to own my own company. I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. So I came up with what turned out to be a great name, a household name here in New York for sure, where we ultimately captured 50% market share of the brokerage business, called Citi Habitats.
How?
One of the unique ideas that I came up with was that we were going, how were we going to get exposure? This was before the internet, and there was one option, which is the advertising through either the Village Voice or the New York Times, which I did that, which is what everybody did, and we paid per line advertising. And then there was another unique idea, which was storefronts. And my vision was, and what I realized was, New York City is so big, comparing it to Long Island, that every 20 blocks is a different neighborhood. So if we opened up on Main Street every 20 blocks, we can dominate Manhattan.
How many storefronts did you have?
So at the end, before I was purchased, I had 20.
Wow.
So 20 storefronts.
How did you convince agents to come to you?
So we were capturing market share. We were capturing the rental listings. I had a great rapport with all the rental landlords. It was very fragmented because there was no multiple listing system and no database. Everything was done off of listings boards. We did, and we were the first to innovate rental listings and put them on a computerized database. And
Amazing.
I used FileMaker Pro, and we paid somebody $5,000 to create a listing system on FileMaker Pro, and we used that for 10 years, a $5,000 database. And when I sold the company, I sold it with FileMaker Pro, and that was the big technology back then. But it still had all of the relevant facts that you need. It still had the address, the price, the location, other little features, whether they accept pets or shares, and everything else that you need to determine to rent apartments.
I'm in awe. In 2004, you sold Citi Habitat to NRT. How did that go? Like, what was the environment then?
So I never, from the very beginning through that whole 10-year journey, I never really thought forward more than 1 or 2 years at a time. I didn't have some master plan to sell. And quite frankly, I never knew that my company was worth as much money as it ended up selling it for.
Are you allowed to tell us? Is it public?
It's public. It was listed at $49 million was the total deal value, but the real net number was $45 million.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. And they bought our company at the same time. It was a roll-up. It was the 9th largest purchase for NRT nationwide, and they rolled up about 178 or 188 companies. And included at that same time was the Corcoran Group, Sotheby's, and the Sunshine Group.
We've had Gary Mallon and Pam Liebman on the show, and they do a great job.
So Gary Mallon, some inside baseball. Gary Mallon was my college roommate freshman sophomore year. And him and I are still best friends, and we see each other frequently. And
great. He helped you run that.
He's doing great, of course.
Yes,
he handled all the operations. He was excellent.
So then in 2005, you founded Buttonwood Development. And what made you leave brokerage for development?
It was a logical progression for me. I was very young, and I'm not the type to sit still.
You're still very young.
Exactly. And I'm not the type to, I was like 36, and I'm not the type to ride off into the sunset and retire and all this other stuff and move. And I love New York, and I still love New York, and I still believe in New York more than any other city or any other place to live and to work. I was consulting 100 different developments, telling and advising top names in the business what they should do with their properties. And I've had every top name as an early client. I had Steve Witkoff, I had Joe Moynihan, I had Nathan Berman, we had the Wilf family. We worked on multifamily portfolios for the generational families like the Goldman family and a whole bunch of others, Kybell family. And it goes on and on and on. And at one point or another, I believe that, I don't like saying they all, but most of them have worked with Citi Habitats.
So you said, I want to be them. I want to be a developer. I'm going to switch hats.
I figured if I was advising them, then maybe I could, try my hand at development. It would be a good challenge. and work on some conversions. So at the same time, there was an incredible amount of money flowing into development, and Lehman Brothers approached me and said, you should become a developer, and we can get you approved, and we can give you a high loan to value. We can give you a high loan to value financing at relatively inexpensive interest rates. And they loaned me $270 million to buy 88 Greenwich.
Which is also Rector Park?
No, that's the second one. So the first one, actually the very first one was 158 Madison, which was Andy Warhol's paint factory. And that was a development site, and that was a little bit less expensive. And we did all the pre-development, and we were going to build it. And I had Jeremy Piven to buy the penthouse, and it was really going to be a great project. Somebody came along from Texas and paid us double for the land, so we decided just to take the profits and not build it. But then 88 Greenwich came immediately thereafter, and that was a 460 unit, 450,000 square foot development, huge. 37 stories building down in the financial district. So that was really my first huge project. I've been part of smaller projects. So we did well. We did very well, and not as well as we modeled. When we modeled that, my share of the profits was probably going to be about $80 or $100 million. So I was going to hit a second grand slam, and I was very excited about it. And I had a 50% partner was Thor Equities, Joe Sitt, and he was to handle the retail, and I was to handle the residential. And he was also to assist with the construction management. We ended up, Buttonwood ended up handling a lot of the construction, and definitely the whole concept and the whole plan and everything along those lines. And when we planned it, we bought it from Worldwide Group, and when we planned it, we thought about what happens if sales don't work as anticipated. And the good news about that project was that it had optionality. There was always a plan B. We could always rent it because these were small apartments. These were studios and small one bedrooms. And there was only a few 2 bedrooms in the whole building. And it also had 43 terraces, which is very unique for a pre-war loft product down in the financial district.
So it's rental now?
So the building, we started converting it, and we converted it in phases, and they were selling like hotcakes. They were selling at like 25 to 35 units per month.
At what price?
I was running the table. We were selling at like $1,000 to $1,200 a foot, or $1,000 to $1,100 a foot.
We're almost back there.
And we are back there, actually. So, which is interesting because that was a 2004 price. I've been through the building recently. They haven't changed a thing. The board hasn't changed a thing. We sold every unit one by one by one by one.
At $1,200 a foot. Okay.
At around $1,000 to $1,200 a foot, depending upon the floor, the view, and whether we have terraces or not. But then 2008 came when we were only about 270 units sold, or 300 units sold. The good news is that the lower half of the building, the lower 3 floors of the building, which had 87 units on it, we kept them in their existing condition, their rental condition. We never converted those floors. We converted them to condo, but we never renovated those floors. So we immediately backfilled those with rentals, which worked out very well to cover cash flow. And who would have believed we were supposed to be the risk of default, my partner and I, in the event of stalled sales. But our bank went out of business, Lehman Brothers. So they were slow to fund, and there were some other issues. Nonetheless, I'm very proud to say that we paid off the entire loan, including their exit fee. We didn't.
You didn't go bankrupt.
We definitely didn't go bankrupt, and we made profit.
Amazing.
But I didn't personally make the 80 to 100 million that I had on my spreadsheets. So.
But now, after that, you still didn't quit. You've got to love this guy. He then opened Town Residential.
Yeah, so we also did one Rector Park in Battery Park City.
I remember that,
which was a 228 unit conversion as well. So
let's move on to Town. So yes. Town Realty, people would tell me, you got to go into Town. They give you like beautiful like coffee and sweets, and everybody wants to come work there. It's so high end, and you really made that like a very unique special high-end brokerage firm. And tell us what happened there and why that closed, and tell us about that story.
Yeah, so I've always, even back in the days of Citi Habitats, I've always weaved in to my business plan as one of the cornerstones of the business was hospitality. I've always treated my my agents as my clients and customers, and I didn't only focus on buyers or sellers, or didn't only focus on renters, or the landlords who give us the supply of rental units, or the developers who give us their supply to sell. But there was that fifth dimension, which is the agents and brokers, and they really need to be supported and genuinely supported, not just with lip service. So at Citi Habitats, I started a concierge company called Citi Concierge. When they purchased my company back in 2004, they bought everything that came with it, and Citi Concierge was its own LLC, and I signed that, and I signed a 5-year non-compete in the concierge business. So when I was writing my business plan, I'm a big fan of business plans. Writing the business plan, you write a business plan, you sleep on it, you go back to it a week or two later, you look at it again, you tweak it, you maybe share it with a few different people, but not in its
You wrote it yourself?
In its entire write it myself 100%. And I don't know if I have the Citi Habitats business plan that I wrote, but I do have the town business plan that I wrote.
How many agents did you have at town?
And I got up to 600.
It's amazing, Andrew.
Yeah,
amazing. So you went from Citi Habitat, you sell it for like almost $40 million. Then you go to become a developer. Then you leave that and then open again another brokerage. Wasn't there a non-compete with Citi?
Yeah. So the hospitality non-compete was for 5 years. And that included the concierge company as well, because I'm going to talk about the town special sauce. And when I realized I needed to pivot. And Buttonwood never has always existed, and I still operate under Buttonwood today. It pre-existed the sale of town. I always had Buttonwood as my parent company, so to speak. When I realized that development was no longer an opportunity, I was at a Young Presidents Organization group meeting at the St. Regis, and I remember it clear as day with Jeff Blau, who's a friend of mine from University of Michigan. We're the same age, and he was sitting, and he was on the panel. He was the host panel, and he said that anyone in the audience that's calling them, this is in 2009, anyone that's calling themselves a developer at this point in time, it's an oxymoron. There is no more developers. There's no more development. We had 25 projects. We only have one right now. So I figured if Related and Jeff Blau and Steve Ross only have one development going on in 2009, then I'm certainly not a developer either. So I knew it was time to pivot
to brokerage,
into something else. No, not right away, because
non-compete.
I've always been 100% committed and in what I was doing, and I was not thinking about the next plan, because my plan was to be in the business that I was in. It wasn't until it was time to pivot that when the whole development market fell out in 2008 happened, which needs no explanation, that I knew it was time to do something else. So I had to take a pause while I was thinking and marinating of what I'm going to be doing. And when you go through that process, you start thinking, should I live in New York? Do I want to live in New York? Maybe I should switch industries. Maybe I should go into the restaurant business.
Stick with what you know.
Good with hospitality. Maybe I should move to Florida. Maybe I should move to the Hamptons. And I always go through that same machination. And then at the end of the whole process, I come back to the same conclusion. I'm from Manhattan. I am Manhattan. This is what I know. So I'm going to devise my next plan around Manhattan and stay close to what I've always done before.
Did that hurt Citi Habitats business when you opened town?
Not. I don't know. I mean, I wasn't looking to hurt anyone's business. I was looking to improve.
Your direct competitor.
Well, anyone in brokerage, it wasn't really necessarily a direct competitor. My brand, the brand that I created at that time, was more of a competitor with Corcoran Group than it would be.
Which is part of NRT.
Which was Citi Habitats was the sister, was a sister company. It was more of a competitor with as far as brand appearance, as far as being, an upscale brand. Now, Citi Habitats sold 1,000 very high-end, super high-end properties. When I was there, we even sold something for like $20 million back in the days when that wasn't even possible. So, but it wasn't known for that, and that's not why it was bought by the Corcoran Group. Now they've merged, and now they're all one, and now Gary runs the show over there. Of course, underneath Pam. I was always looking to innovate and improve, and I never even knew the word, and I don't like the word, and I still don't like the word disrupt. I think it's a very bad word, and it's very negative, and I think competition's great. It's good for the agents. I think that the opening of town was very, very good for the agents today. It really gave them the upper hand, and the agents now are making higher splits and higher returns, the productive agents, than they've ever made before, and the training is better than it's ever been before, and the experience for the agents is better than it's ever been before, and I take partial responsibility through the formation of town for that happening.
So speaking of the agents, we have this new brokerage law right now, which you're probably the expert in, where I understand that co-broking is going to be now, you can't do that anymore as an agent. You have to go directly to the seller. So explain how you think that's going to affect the agents. Is it going to be a consolidation in the industry, or do you think people are going to leave the industry? Maybe some people are saying there'll be flat fee brokerage firms. What do you think is going to happen?
So, I think it's a big issue right now, and I think it's a big problem right now. I think that to separate out the commissions into buy-side representation and sell-side representation, I think on the sell side, I think the large companies, the large well-known companies, I'll just talk about Manhattan for right now. I won't jump around the whole United States. The Corcoran Groups, the Douglas Ellimans, the Compasses, the Brown Harris Stevens, the ones that are doing Sotheby's, and I'm sorry if I left out any of the well-deserved, well-known, reputable other companies that list properties really, really well and do a really good job at their listing presentation and with video, and Sirhant does an excellent job and with social media presence and marketing and branding and all the stuff that goes along with listing properties, including the agent and the agent themselves having a very good temperament, a very good image that could relate to the buyers. I think the list side of the business will remain the way that it is. It will just become much more competitive because there will be less buy-side deals. So people will need to earn money. So some people might traverse into the sell side more than they would have in the past, since there's going to be less buy-side commissions. The problem is convincing a buyer's
to sign with you.
A buyer to sign with you, and a buyer has never in the history of the world signed an agreement before. The lawyers that represent the buyers have never dealt with buy-side representation. A lot of the responsibilities, if you really break it down into a menu of the services that the buyer offers the agents, really can be handled by the seller and seller's agent, and a lot of times it is. So
the seller's agent would do twice as much work for 3%.
Well, they were already doing, a lot of the seller's agents were doing the work anyway because it's more streamlined, and the buy-side agents, buy-side brokers were hand-holding the buyer, and there's a whole psychology that goes along with that, and really a necessity. I mean, if you're moving here to New York, it's overwhelming, so if you're moving from out of town, and when I say out of town, I'm not just talking about from California to New York. I'm talking about from Great Neck or Greenwich, Connecticut to New York. I think that you really, would benefit from a buyer's
there'll be flat fee agencies opening?
So part of the and from my understanding, maybe I'm not informed because I wasn't in it to the extent that I was named in a lawsuit and I had to defend it and really learn what the settlement's about. Right. My understanding of how the settlement works is that they wanted to break up what they considered to be, fee fixing, or and imposing this double tax basically on the seller, and requiring them to pay 5% and 6% commissions. And also the agencies, the brokerage firms, the name brands that I mentioned earlier, can mandate, you can't charge less than 5%, or you have to take it out of your end, or you can't charge less than 6%, and you have to take it out of your end. I think that's gone. So I think now that the independent contractor agent can charge whatever they want underneath your label, and I think what seems like it's going to happen is some agents that are lesser agents that do lesser transactions that are trying to break in. There's 3 tiers. There's the super productive agents that are going to command or demand what they get paid, and they're just going to say, I'm the best, and you're just going to have to pay for it, just like top lawyers do in this city and other top professionals, and they're going to be able to command it, and then life goes on just fine. And in fact, they might get a windfall from all of this. The top 10%, the top 15%, the top 20%. The people with experience, people with a track record, and the ones with a real book of business that are technicians, that are major experts. I think that they might do double the business or 50% more of the business, and this might really work out really well for them. I think the super large companies that have their act together, basically, when it comes to listing properties, are going to benefit from this. And I think that some agents who are trying to break into the market that are not doing zero deals, that are trying to break into the market, might offer under the same label, and this is where it might cause confusion. They might say, well, why list with so-and-so at Compass when you could list with me at Compass and I could list at 1.5%, and you have to list through them.
It's going to be a shakeup.
3%.
Bottom line is going to be a shakeup.
So that's going to cause some problems. And then the whole bottom 40%, I think, might just have to leave the market, and there might be shrinkage. And
everybody hear that? New real estate agents that come in? So you're going to have to work harder, but you might make more money because there'll be less, and that'll be good.
Correct. So it will sort itself out, but it might take a year or 2 or 3 for it to sort out. And there will be new models that surface. So
let's talk about New York in general. You're the expert. We both have been through this. You've seen the cycles. I mean, people are saying right now rentals are high, sales are, even though the numbers have not come down, their volume is down by, I think, 20 to 25%. Correct me if I'm wrong. How are you seeing the market? Let's just go through broad strokes: sales, rentals, retail, commercial.
Fine. The sales market, there's always sales. There's always sales in Manhattan. You could look at any peak and valley, and just over the last 20 years alone, I'll go back till a little bit more than 20 years, about 24 years. I'll give you 5 highlights. 1999, 2000, there was a seismic event. It was called the dot-com bust. 2001, there was a seismic event called September 11th. 2003, there was a seismic event with the CEO fraud that was going on everywhere, which had an impact on our market. 2008 was the Great Recession. And then I'll fast forward all the way to COVID. There was an oversupply in 2017 and 18. It's not talked about with new development. At one point, the other Miller, Jonathan Miller, projected that there were like 13,000 empty apartments, and there was like 8 years of inventory, and we overbuilt, and et cetera, et cetera. That inventory is all passed through the market. So this market is self-regulating. There's always sales. At the low, there could be 6 or 7 or 8,000 sales in Manhattan, or New York City, I should say. And I think in Manhattan, that statistic. And then in the peak, there could be, 9, 10, or 11,000 sales. So there's just always business. And as an agent, it's your job to find business that can actually transact, where the seller and the buyer are on the same page. And that's your job, is to make the match.
So where do you see us now?
So I see us now in a little bit of a buyer's market, but it also all depends on the mindset of the seller. Does the seller have the wherewithal and the means to wait it out? That's why you'll see some listings either on the market at Street Easy or off the market, and they've come back and on and off the market for 9 years. There was a property at 80 Washington Place that has been on the market and has been through every single brokerage firm, including Town, starting in 2013.
At what price point was that?
Originally, it started at 35 million, then down to 28 million, and then down to 23 million. And then
so that's a different category.
And I just saw Sirhan transact it, and he said 19 million, but 19.5 million. But it's important. When they list what the sale price was, it was the listed sale price, and you won't really know until it goes through Acris, 4 weeks later, what the real price was. So. That doesn't mean that it was ever worth 35 million. It was grossly overpriced at 35 million. So it looks bad to the consumer, but at the end of the day, maybe at the peak, it might have been worth, he probably could have gotten 24, 25, and now he's going to have to take 18 or 19.
With interest rates high and the instability in the
7% interest rates, 7% mortgage interest rates, and I'm sorry, but even 6% mortgage interest rates are a big problem for sales volume. It makes apartments unaffordable, and the only way to offset the unaffordability of a 6% mortgage interest rate is to lower the price. So you have to find enough sellers willing to lower the price. The thing with Manhattan is there are a lot of super wealthy people that have the means and the wherewithal to wait. And before taking the sellers, before taking it on the chin and losing $300,000 or $400,000 on $2 million, or losing $200,000 on $1 million, or losing $3 million on $8 million, or $10 million, or something like that, they might just pay the common charges and taxes, rent it. There's always optionality in New York City. You could rent unless you're in a co-op. And even there, you could probably rent for 2 years.
So I want to quote Howard Lorber,
yeah,
who says that New York is becoming a pied-à-terre market. It's becoming a secondary market because people that have lived here as a primary residence, the wealthy, because of the taxes and because of the crime and because of right now the atmosphere in New York, have most of them high income, which is something like 800,000 people, have left. So how much do you think politics and crime and what's going on in New York is detracting from sales?
It's super important. It's super important, and it is definitely detracting from sales, especially for the families. And I have a new baby that's 2 years old, and we're in the school system again. I have a 19 and 21-year-old that are doing great in college, but so now I'm starting over here as a young parent. I'm not young, but my child's young, and my wife, all the parents that we speak to really don't have plans right now to stay past the fours program or the fives program. They're not really planning
because of the schools
to have their roots here. It lost its gravitas because of what happened, starting with de Blasio, and now has continued through with quality of life issues that are going on around the city, and what's obvious lack of resources. I mean, we were just in Central Park yesterday, and even that little clock that's in the Central Park Zoo is broken. So, that's like an important thing. So the little bells don't go around; they're broken, and you could tell that Central Park is in need of some repair, and all the streets and everything else. And then on top of that, all the stuff that's going on the street crime, and the fact that it's so visible. Maybe it's not any more than it's ever been, but it's visible because everything's caught on camera. It's instant, and with social media, it goes around like wildfire, and those neighborhood alert systems. I mean, if you subscribe to that, you can go crazy because as I'm sitting here, I'm sitting here with you right now, there's probably something crazy going on in the corner.
Yeah, I stopped subscribing. So it's funny because I started the Miller Report because it was started to be in real estate, and then it went to politics because I think that they're hand in hand. If we don't have good politics and good leadership and safe cities, we won't have any value in our real estate. Is really what you're saying.
Yeah. So we need safety, we need cleanliness, we need no crime, and there's a lot of big city problems here that are not. But there's the least big city problems here than there are in other big cities.
Right.
We have such an international allure here, and it's still the best city. It's still the greatest city. It will reinvent itself. You just need a little more time. If you're looking more of a long view, like 5 or 7 years from now, I think that I would not predict the demise of the family in New York City. I would say the family in New York City will be thriving. I think that right now, at this point in time, if you're on a 1 to 3 year plan, I think that to make a statement like Howard made, that the family in New York City is moving elsewhere or looking elsewhere, or maybe looking to the suburbs, might be factual. But I don't think it's going to be a long-term trend that's going to be here in 7 years from now.
Well, you read my mind on the next question, so that was good. But let's just, before we jump there, let's go to rentals. So how are you seeing the rental market?
So the rental market this summer has cooled down a little bit. Last summer, it was desperation. I've been helping a ton of friends and family for no fee. I'll help anybody find a rental apartment for no fee. And I don't collect a fee from the landlord either. It's gratuitous. So I'm out there and I actually see what's going on in the market myself with my own eyes and my own 2 feet, walking into these apartments. I could educate myself. There's nothing better to educate yourself.
And what do you see?
And what I'm seeing is that you can get a $5,000 to $6,000 one bedroom in a doorman building, and you have more options right now versus last summer. It was frenetic and things never even hit the market, and you couldn't get any apartments. And
so why do you think we have more supply?
So there's more. Well, for 30 years plus that I've been in the business, they said that the supply of rentals is directly correlated to job opportunities. So where there's jobs, there's rentals. And so that's one thing. And also I think inflation, I think that the costs of living are insane. And just to go to restaurants and everything else, and even for higher end restaurants and less expensive restaurants, it's just very expensive to live here. And a lot of people have taken up their families have taken up homes in the suburbs, and they're saving money on rent.
So do you think, are the landlords still paying fees for these apartments? And in works the best developer and the man, John Catsimatidis. Can you join us for a minute, John? So before you walked in, I was talking to Andrew about what he thinks of New York. And you and I always talk about how many people have left because of the state of the city, because of crime, because of politics. You're a developer. Andrew has had, a brokerage firm, and he's been a developer. He had 4 big projects. And I want to know, I know your opinion. You think that New York will come back, and you think that people have left because of the politics. John, what's your sense of New York on the real estate side?
I can't believe the amount of money being spent on Park Avenue between Jamie Dimon and the other groups. A tremendous amount of money. New York always comes back. We spent a lot of money in New York. We spent a few $1 billion in the last 5 years. And we have locations ready to spend another $1 billion. I'm not ready to spend $1 billion. We're spending on 24th Street and 8th Avenue $100 million, 145th and Broadway another $100 million. Spending hundreds, not billions. I pray for New York, and I think and what I've told the governor and what I've told the mayor, the number one ingredient is people have to feel good walking around the streets. We used to. Us that live in Manhattan, we used to walk around going to restaurants to midnight. We used to go to Gristiti's, Dwayne Reed to midnight. And we all felt safe. Now, I walk around at night, I carry my gun.
Wow. I didn't know that.
And no, at night, it's even worse. I carry it in my pocket with my finger on the trigger. I do.
What neighborhood?
I live on 63rd and 5th.
Okay.
So I go up to Madison.
My neighbors live on 61st and 5th.
Okay. So, I go, even if I go around the corner to Altace or the other one, or, we have a lot of great restaurants in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
But I still, look, I grew up on 135th Street. I grew up in the poor side of town. I went to Brooklyn Tech. I'm a street kid. It's not. They're not going to get me. I'm going to get them first.
I love that.
And on my beach house, I got a beautiful beach house on the beach. I sleep with a gun underneath my pillow.
So, Andrew, are you going to open up another brokerage firm? Are you believing that New York's going to come back? What are you thinking?
So I'm not sure that for my future, for my next 20,
You've done it twice.
For my next 20-year run, I'm not sure that brokerage is the business that's going to be my next large-scale venture. I am very interested in it, and what I said to you earlier in this interview is that I love writing business plans. I have a great business plan that's the cure-all for the next modern brokerage firm that would actually survive very well, considering the split off between the buy-side broker and the sell-side broker, and it's a great business model that would work. And that'd be very, very profitable and very lucrative for all involved, including the brokerage company, not just the agents. Because right now, as we could see, especially the publicly traded brokerage companies are really getting hammered. Their stocks getting killed.
Right. I think Doug is at $1.
Yeah.
Oh, Douglas Elliman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's at $1. I think Compass is not far behind that, but
yeah. Compass has been going up. They're coming into their earnings call on July 31st. It's been going up a little
And
bit.
how's Cushman and Wakefield going?
I'm not following that. I know that stock's not doing too well as well. The commercial
I think
brokerages.
it's like $10, $11.
Yeah. So
And the question is, the Fortune 200. Are they moving in or moving out? The question is, what is Jamie Dimon going to do with Park Avenue? Mm-hmm. He's got more employees in Texas than he has in New York right now. Mm-hmm. And it looks like Texas, even Elon Musk, is moving his entire operations from California to Texas. So it seems like the common story I tell is the fact that the budget in Florida for 22 million people, used to be 20, now it's 22, give or take, is $100 billion. The budget, if you're sitting here in New York City, between New York City and New York State, it's 240 and 110 is $350 billion. For $350 billion versus 100 in Florida, mm-hmm. For whom do the bells toll?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that seems better for Florida, but Florida has a whole bunch of challenges. It has horrible mass transit. The highways and the infrastructure are way too small. There's a major traffic problem there. There's horrible inflation. All my friends that move there and they're all upwardly mobile, so they're all at least $300,000 to $500,000 earners or many $1 million earners, and some even higher than that. Are complaining about the cost of restaurants and everything else.
They must not be in St. Petersburg.
No, not in St. Petersburg.
St. Petersburg has great restaurants.
Yes, and that's an untold.
Yeah.
That's going to do very well. So
But New York has the playbook. We've done this before. We just have to dust it off. New York has the playbook to install law and order here. We could do this with the right people, the right administration.
So I want to ask about that, and then because I know we've been taking a lot of time, I want to talk about politics for a minute because I know you're the expert. How much do you think changing leadership will help New York, and do you think it'll have any effect?
I think as far as national politics are concerned, I'm very much concerned. I don't believe that Vice President Harris is not capable of being president of the United States. A lot of limitations, and I used to be a Democrat. I helped run Bill Clinton's campaign, and I love Bill Clinton. I still love him, but it seems like the Democratic Party right now has turned against religion, has turned against common sense. It's turned into open borders, which the European Union has been doing for more years than us. And guess what? European Union has just realized that they're in trouble. And the reason for Brexit in Great Britain and England was the British population went from 67% down to 47%. And they said, oh, gee, this is our country. Why are we giving it away?
Right.
Well, that's what's happening to Germany. That's what's happening to France, Italy, and being of Greek background, when I went to Greece in May, I've said I made a lot of speeches. It was on a religious trip, and one of the things I said during my speeches, look, I have Greek blood. I think Greece is for Greeks. Don't invade my country. I don't mind having visitors. I don't mind having 10%, 20% of the population being foreigners, visiting. But Greece is for Greece, Greeks. Italy is for Italians. France is for French. Germany is for Germans. And what's wrong with that? It's been going on.
What about the United States?
Well, New York.
The United States is a melting pot,
right? Yeah.
But we have to control who's coming and going. We used to have Ellis Island. I was vice chairman of Ellis Island. Bill Fugazi was chairman, and Lee Iacocca was honorary chairman. And we loved Ellis Island, and we should create another Ellis Island. We used to control who's coming and going. If we need 10,000 carpenters, bring in 10,000 carpenters. If you need 10,000 bricklayers, bring in 10,000 bricklayers. So we made sure people had jobs coming in. And they're not going to come in and be on welfare and being a burden on our city. The billions of dollars of burdens that are burdensome on our city is horrible what's going on. And the other thing that's going on, and people are starting to realize it now, is like when Venezuela emptied out their jails, sent them to us. Venezuela emptied out their hospitals, sent them to us. So our systems are being overburdened. Our schools are being overburdened. And it's creating a very bad situation for our regular citizens. And what I said to my Democratic friends, why can't we take care of the American poor first before we take care of the South American poor or the Central American poor? We're generous people. Well, let's take care of our poor first. Why don't we, I'm chairman of the Police Athletic League. Why don't we take care of our inner city kids first before we take care of the rest of the world? There's 8 billion people in the world. We can't take care of everybody. We can't, I can't believe President Biden is sending airplanes to the Congo, bringing them in.
What's going on in Houthi? We can't even get out.
In places unknown.
So we talk about this a lot, and the whole situation with New York and Trump, I mean, come on. That was insane. He built the skyline. He really is New York. His buildings, I think, are the best buildings in New York.
What they did to him
yes.
was the bullet was not fired by Tish James. The bullet was fired by the White House.
And do you think if Donald Trump wins, I'm going to ask you both this, that New York City will do better? Or do you think he'll abandon New York because he's angry at the politics, or do you think he'll do better for New York?
I know Donald Trump for 45, 50 years. He will never abandon New York.
So you think that will save our city?
I believe it'll help saving our city because he believes in law and order, in common sense, not what's going on right now.
And Andrew?
I definitely think that with a change of administration on the presidential level to Donald Trump and the Republicans will have a trickle-down effect that very positively impact New York City. I do not think at all that he's turned his back on New York City. I think that he wants to be part of the revival of New York City, him and his administration, as much as they can, and as much as the local politicians, from the governor down to the mayor and city council, which really is the most powerful, allows him to be. And if hopefully they don't subterfuge the efforts
as they do with everything
in order to either retain control, and if there is some way for the the bureaucrats to become unified, I think that this city could be great, and it could be a great model for other large cities. And I also think that generalizing the nation's issues and applying them to New York City is not it's an apples to oranges comparison. Quite frankly, I think that we could, if the migrants, I'm vehemently opposed to illegal immigration, but if the migrants were to be allowed to come here and through a vetting process, and we made sure that they weren't unsavory and they weren't illegals and they didn't have all kinds of other issues, I think that this workforce would welcome them with open arms, and actually we can make more revenues putting them on the books. I think that we need laborers. We lost a lot of laborers, and a lot of my friends own a lot of the restaurants and everything else. We need people to work here, people in the construction business and everything else. So I think that New York City can absorb. And I think what's going on Park Avenue is very exciting. It's very exciting. And there's about 14, that's an actual number, 14 super tall skyscrapers that are in planning stages and getting built and getting executed. And then there are probably another 3 mega projects just in Manhattan that are going to happen thanks to Related and some other large developers. And then also outside of New York City in the Brooklyn and Queens area, where I am not as seasoned and experienced firsthand, there's a lot of major large-scale projects going on. So there's a lot of exciting things going on here, including with our sports teams and everything else, and our cultures and the melting pot and everything else. But there just has to be law and order.
So we got to all get out and vote. Do you have anything you want to end with, John?
Basically, maybe I hope there's some common sense coming in Albany. Last week there was a situation where in Mike Gennaris's neighborhood, and Mike Gennaris is running as deputy majority leader of the state Senate, and he's had a big voice in it, and I know him for a long time. In his district at Rite Aid, they had hundreds of migrants in that Rite Aid that abandoned ship. And on the roof of the Rite Aid, they had Panamanian flags, they had Colombian flags, they had Puerto Rican flags. And he went there, his constituents took him there to see it. And he says, this can't go on like this.
Yeah.
So is there common sense coming? I don't know. But the people of the state of New York, the people of the city of New York have to put their foot down. The most important other statistic I'm going to give you, of all the police commissioners I've had on my show, 90% of the crimes in New York City are 3,300 people. It used to be the Rockefeller law, 3 strikes and you're out. So I said to the politicians, all right, you want to make it 5? You want to make it 10? You want to make it 15? Some of these people have 50 strikes.
The guy who was killed, the Dillif, 17 times he was elected, arrested.
And the other joke I tell, it's not a joke, it's true. You're a criminal in New Jersey. You come to New York to commit a crime. And you commit your crime, you go home for dinner. You come to New York, you commit a crime, you get caught, you still go home for dinner.
Because you're in jail an hour.
Yeah. But there's an easy playbook to fix it. It's
called getting out and voting.
If there's the political desire to fix it, it will get fixed.
If I was
quickly.
mayor, I'd fix it in 90 days.
How?
Are you running?
I'm getting too old to run.
Nah, you're never too old. You're just starting. How would you fix it in 90 days?
I would do what I have to do. If we catch criminals, I'll tell my police force, take them over to 12th Avenue, put them in that cage there until we process them. Don't just give them a desk appearance ticket.
Yeah.
And forget about them there for 3 days. You know, I mean, enough is enough. And they want to sue me that as the mayor of New York, they want to sue me that I'm violating the law. So I hired that Chinese law firm. So sue me. I mean, you know,
A lot of them
give me a break. Sue me.
A lot of them are minors.
Yeah, just sue me.
So that's going to clean it in 90 days. You're basically saying bail reform.
You know, you make it difficult on the criminals. You don't make it easy.
Okay. Well, on that note, we're going to hopefully everybody gets out and voted. I only read 23% of people voted this year. So maybe people are tired and they will.
17.
Yeah. I actually
17,
heard.
that's even worse.
I actually heard less.
So you think that'll change now?
No.
I don't know.
People are apathetic.
I just think, you know, there's an old rule. A lot of people in Manhattan especially say if you go and vote, then you're eligible to be a jury, for jury duty. And a lot of people weren't voting because they didn't want to go for jury duty.
Right.
Or taxes. How about taxes? If they vote, that means they have to pay taxes in New York.
Also, there's been such a disparity between Democrat and Republican. The victories have been the margin of victory has been so large that you really feel like it's a waste of time if you did want to vote contrarian.
You need common sense. A common sense Republican that's running. That's not a extreme right wing person
Like Bloomberg.
And you don't need a bow tie Republican. That wears white socks and a bow tie.
Yeah.
And the Democratic, there are a lot of Democrats, but the common sense people, but they're afraid of the extreme left wing people.
Right.
Well, we need Giuliani back. The old Giuliani.
He's not coming back.
I mean, and old Giuliani.
You need somebody similar, but it's a different time, a different place. So you need somebody.
Moving forward.
We've got to move forward. You need law and order as a principal thing to keep the New Yorkers here. The good news or bad news, the good news is the tourism is high as ever, which gives an excuse to spend money to the city council and say, oh, see, things are rosy-dozy.
Yep.
And they're not. For us that live here for the last 30, 40, 50 years, they're not.
So I want to just end by saying back to real estate and politics, which is what we talk about here. I think that people who have properties in New York, even though they're not voting, it's their most important investment. And we're going to hope that they're going to come back and care because they still have their property here and the sales are down, so they're not selling. They could hold on. So they'll have to vote and make a difference. All of those people that still have properties in New York, they have to make a difference and they have to get out. They have to vote and they have to try and help us because we're all in this together.
We're all in it together.
We're all in it together. So thank you guys. And John,
Thank
thanks
you.
so much for joining us. This made it so much more interesting.
Thank you.
Thanks.